event, I'm going to hit the record button. I'm not a big fan of recording, but there are several people who've pleaded with me, sent me emails pleading with me to record the event because they aren't able to be here in real time. So if it's okay with everybody, I will record the plenary session. Please don't say anything that you wouldn't want to be shared more widely. I think that's probably the best way to go. Most people nowadays are thoroughly familiar with Zoom, I'm guessing, but if you're currently seeing me big and everybody else small, have a look for a button at the top right of your Zoom window that says View or Gallery View. Gallery View will let you see everybody. At least if you're on a laptop or a desktop computer, you'll be able to see everybody at a single go, or at 2 screens worth anyway. And that will be a much nicer way of participating. I'm showing some slides behind me. If at some point you want to read the words on the slide, you might want to pin me. The way to do that is to click on my picture or the person you want to pin, click on the 3 dots in the blue square, and one of the options is pin. And that means that you will suddenly see me big, but you're in control of whether I'm big or whether you see the whole group. And a lot of people on this call will be facilitators. So you want to see how the group responds and how things are happening with the whole group. Do please, if you can, see the whole group and unmute yourself if you possibly can. Is there any? So I'm guessing we've got a lot of things that different people would like to happen on this call. And with currently 51 participants here, I know I'm not actually going to be able to please all of the people, but I will do my best. Could you please write in the chat in a sentence or a few words what you would like from this call? As soon as somebody writes in the chat, you'll see it. If you're not familiar with Zoom chat, David wants to find out what clean language is. Excellent. And there'll be a few people who are just intrigued, other people who are interested in how it can be used by facilitators, things that you can apply today, or if you're in my time zone tomorrow, concrete examples of how it can be used in facilitation, tips, practice, picking up on more knowledge, the frameworks, the processes, practical insights, see how it works. All of that kind of thing is part of what we're going to aim to cover today. So thank you very much for letting me in on your thinking about what you'd like. That's really helpful to me. And I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to do everything, but I'll do my best. I'm looking around the group for a co-host. Simon, can I just make you co-host just in case anything goes horribly wrong and I fall off the call?
Okay.
And if you could look out for echoey people that need to be muted, that would be kind too. But I know you're here for your own purposes. You're not here to be my buddy. So that's not a requirement, it's a request. We are recording the session. Do, however, take notes. The research suggests that if you take handwritten notes, you're much more likely to remember what's been covered. So don't feel you have to take absolute notes of everything that gets said. I'll also share my slides with you afterwards, but taking notes will help your recall and understanding of what gets covered. With all of that, a couple of other things to say. We'll be doing lots of activities in this session. It won't be me talking, you listening. We'll be doing stuff. That means putting you into small groups, pairs and threes, have conversations. You don't have to participate in those small groups. And if I call on you to speak and you don't want to speak, you don't have to speak. Just say pass. However, when it comes to the small groups, if you're not going to join the breakout, please let me know, because otherwise somebody will be sitting there on their own. And that could be a bit awkward. So let me know if you're not going to join the activities. Is there anything else that anyone needs to know as we get started? Oh, and I can't see absolutely everybody now. We're up to 56 participants, which means I have to flick through 3 screens to see everyone. So to attract my attention, unmute yourself and shout. It works. Okay, let's dive in with an activity. In this next activity, we're going to have some fun with listening. Clean language is not really about language. And it's not about being clean as in not swearing. Listening is absolutely fundamental to what clean language is, how it works, and what's interesting about it. So I love to start clean language classes with a warm-up activity. Some of you will have done this warm-up activity before. If you have, now's a good time to be thinking, if I haven't already started sharing this activity with my groups online, what do I need to know or do to use it in my next online facilitation today, tomorrow, or this week? This activity is so important. Everyone should use it, and it's really quick. Here's what's going to happen. In a moment, the group is going to be broken into pairs. With fingers crossed, we've got enough breakout rooms for everybody to be in pairs. And what's going to happen is you take it in turns to be the talker and the listener. When you are the talker, you're going to talk for a minute about something that is important to you. That could be your family, it could be your job, it could be a hobby, a sports team, something that matters to you. That's the talker's role. You talk for 60 seconds. The listener's role is to do 3 different things. First, for 20 seconds, you listen really well. You nod, you smile, you go, mm-hmm. You encourage your talker to keep talking. After 20 seconds, be visibly distracted. You can use your phone, you can use the cat, you can use your email, but just give it 15 or 20 seconds of being visibly distracted. Then go back to listening fully for the remaining seconds. And then on the dot of 60 seconds, swap roles. Does that make sense to everybody?
Do we have to time ourselves?
David, I'm going to, can I sit out of this one because I've done it before and I just need to do some prep?
You can. I'm just looking for you in the rooms and swapping somebody in.
Thank you so much.
Your space. Anyone else that needs to sit out now would be a good time to shout. You'll be able to see a stopwatch on the Zoom, which will count down 2 minutes. And there will also be a 60-second countdown timer once I've closed the rooms. So all being well and fingers crossed, you should have a total of 3 minutes to do a 2-minute activity. Everyone okay with that? Opening the rooms now. Vivian, just hang fire for a moment and we'll see which room I need to add you to. See if some people aren't able to join the breakouts.
Yeah, sorry, I had to, in order to get the video and stuff in the gallery view, I had to switch to another Zoom version. So because I usually use the browser.
Great. So let me just add you to a room. Did you hear the instructions?
Yeah, it's listen, then be distracted, then listen 20 seconds each time. Okay, cool.
I've just added you to a breakout where you should find somebody willing to play.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Hey, sorry, I was just thrown away and then now I reconnected again.
Okay, bear with me just a second where I find your partner in room 24.
Yep.
Here we go.
Thank you.
This is quite useful because I'm actually going to do it's 3 minutes, isn't it? This one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the whole thing is 3 minutes. Or
The whole
just
thing is 3 minutes.
3. 2 minutes of speaking and 1 minute of
Countdown timer.
Oh yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. No, I've hastily thrown something together for tonight, and I don't want that plane crash.
The recording is still recording, but of course everybody knows that's only a metaphorical closed
Thank you for
plane
reminding
crash.
me.
I'm closing the breakouts.
We'll see if there was a plane crash. By the time you're watching this, we'll have found out.
Did you see my blog post this morning, by the way?
No,
I haven't posted it more widely, but I'll talk about it when everybody's back, because there's a lot of interesting stuff to share about this. Did everybody make it to a breakout, make it back?
I left it by mistake. Can I go back to my breakout room?
I'm afraid not. Once the rooms are closed, I can't put you back in. But don't worry, they'll be back in just a few seconds, 26 seconds or something.
Okay.
And if anyone was just joining at the moment that the breakout rooms were closed, don't panic. Everything will become clear any moment now. Gabby. So the group have just been out in breakouts doing the activity that you can see written up behind me, and they're just coming back. They'll be back in about 4 seconds.
Thank you.
Welcome back. What I'm hearing is a bit of laughter. So, Deb in Michigan, what just happened, or what was happening in your pair?
Oh my gosh. When Sophie pulled her phone out, I just flipped out.
What kind of flipped out?
It's, why am I doing this? No one's listening to me. And this is important.
Thank you for sharing. Did anyone have a similar or a different experience? Bess, what happened when your listener stopped listening?
I said a whole bunch of things that I was pretty sure he didn't hear at all about being fat, and which I'm not. And then my voice just went totally monotonous. I just said things, and I'm not sure if he heard them at all. But he was a very lovely person to listen anyway. So, yeah.
So Bess just said things, and Deb flipped out. And who had a different experience or a similar one?
I've done this exercise a few times now, and so I was kind of prepared for what was going to happen, but I think that the thinking about being prepared, bracing myself, actually just made it worse. So I found that I was so busy being confused about how strong the effect is that it made it even worse, and I couldn't think of anything to say.
So for Simon, it made it even worse when he braced himself, and for Bess, she was monotonous, and for Deb, flipped out. And Priton.
Actually, I forgot that after 20 seconds, she would not be listening to me, Ingrid. So I got a bit irritated, I had lost interest. And then I realized it's a role. So then I kind of, it's fine. She's doing a role. When I did the same to her, I was speaking to my parrot instead of looking at my phone. Hello, and I was making my voice loud. After some time, I really felt bad. So fortunately, we got more time than we thought. So then I said, let me make up by really asking her and listening to her. So I did that by compensating.
Thank you. So Pritom, it was compensating, and for Bess, it was monotonous, and for Deb, she flipped out, and Simon made it worse by bracing himself. Lots and lots of different experiences. The point of that experience, by the way, is not to make you uncomfortable. Though, of course, a lot of you are trained listeners, and it was very, very awkward for you to do that. The purpose of that activity is to give people a felt sense of the importance, the value of your listening attention. A lot of you know this quote from Nancy Klein: "The quality of your attention can determine the quality of another person's thought." And the purpose of that activity is to quickly demonstrate the reality of this thing, this idea that your attention can change someone else's thought. And that idea that a listener matters, the listener is not just the audience, a listener makes a difference, is fundamental to this weird thing, clean language. Let me move on to explain a little bit about what clean language is. A couple of people asked that specifically. So here's my current definition of clean language. It's not one of those things that's got a nice tight definition, because clean language is fundamentally the life's work of a guy called David Grove, the late David Grove. He died about 10 years ago. He'd spent the last 20 years of his life creating this thing, clean language. The way I think of it is that it's a precision inquiry framework. And when you understand precision inquiry, you can use it to improve communication between diverse individuals, within groups, between in one-on-one, and even you can use it to help yourself to understand yourself. It can be used in a bunch of different contexts. And it's been used in lots and lots of different ways. Some books that have come out about it that you may or may not have heard of. The one with the rainbow leaves on the front is the one that I co-authored, and that was published almost exactly 10 years ago. And that was the first popular book on clean language. It broke clean language away from the world of therapy, which is where it had existed up until that point. David Grove was a hypnotist, a hypnotherapist, and he worked as a therapist with trauma victims. That's where he created clean language. But clean language is so much more than that, because it gets to the absolute heart of how communication works within humans and between humans. And I got very excited by it. And with Wendy Sullivan, we wrote this book, Clean Language, Revealing Metaphors and Opening Minds, to help people outside therapy get the hang of the whole thing. Other books then started to come out. The one that is most important to you as facilitators is the orange-colored book in the middle of this slide, From Contempt to Curiosity by Caitlyn Walker. Caitlyn, who had known David Grove for a long old time, Caitlyn was working with young people. She was a youth worker. So disaffected young people who were excluded from school, those kind of teenagers. That was what her day job was. She came across David Grove and what he was doing, and she said, blimey, this is good stuff. I wonder what would happen if I taught it to the teenagers I work with. And she got some amazing results. So the bulk of the work, which is clean language with groups and with teams, has its origin both in David Grove's work, clean language, but also in Caitlyn Walker's work, From Contempt to Curiosity, clean language for teams, clean language for groups. She calls it systemic modeling, but all of those things are talking about the same kind of thing. And I've also added on this slide, if you want a quick downloadable free booklet, the ebook that I wrote a few years ago called Your Clean Language Questions Answered is free to download, and it will get you a lot of the basic information very quickly, if that's useful. Bess.
Judy, can you put that in the chat, please, that link, because it's not really very clear on the slide.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. I'll also share it when I do. I'll do a mail out tomorrow with the recording, with the slides, with any links that we mentioned during the course of today. I'll send that out in an email, UK time tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
It's coming to the end of my working day, and I won't have time to process recordings and things tonight. Any other questions about what I've just said before I dive into the next bit? Okay, so at the heart of clean language are a few different elements. It's a precision inquiry technique. So it involves questions. There are, depending how you count the number of clean language questions, there are about 12 core clean language questions that were part of David Grove's basic questioning toolkit. Now that sounds like a ridiculously small number of questions, but that's what he used, and that's what I use when I'm coaching using clean language. I do sometimes. I used to do it a lot more than I do now. Some of you might know that most of what I do nowadays is not clean language. I'm at the moment spending nearly all my time designing, facilitating, and producing large online events. Before the lockdown, I did that for some of the time, and I did clean language coaching and taught clean language for the other part of the time. Then lockdown came, and whoosh, anyone who was capable of organizing online events in a good way, particularly the ones that I like to do, which are the ones where people have genuine conversations, where people really engage with each other, where they find ways to share deeply. Anyone who could do that was suddenly rushed off their feet, and I was in that position. So that was what happened. So this is actually the first clean language thing I've done since the turn of the year, really, simply because January was not much of a month for doing anything. But I used to do a lot of it. And those clean language questions, those 12 clean language questions, I could quite easily spend an hour's coaching session with somebody using just those questions. No other questions and no other words apart from the coaching client's own words. So let me show you what a clean language question looks like. These are the two most commonly used questions. Let me just make that full size and fade myself out so you can see these as big as possible. These are the two most commonly used clean language questions. They get nicknamed the lazy Jedi questions. I'll tell you about that in a little while, perhaps. They're nicknamed the lazy Jedi questions, but they go like this. What kind of X? And is there anything else about X? Where that X stands for one or more of the other person's words. And the idea is you only use those questions and the other person's words. And in a moment, you're going to be doing an activity in which you try that out. In order to do that activity, we need some raw material for you to talk to your conversational partner about. For the raw material, I'm going to ask you to think about your answer to this first question. When you are facilitating online at your best, that's like what? When you're facilitating online at your best, that's like what? Now, there's no right or wrong answer to that question. Whatever your answer is fine. It might be the first thing that pops into your head, or it might need a little bit of thinking. All sorts of ideas have come up as we've used this question in different training during this summer. Some people have said they're like a Zoom jockey, like a disc jockey playing with different equipment and different technical toys. Other people have said it's like juggling. Someone else has said they're like a light, like a little a little lamp like this. Just let's see if I can get it in shot. A little light, and they shine the light on the different people in the group, and it's like they're controlling a spotlight. Or someone else, it might be like they're like a butterfly floating around the group, light touches to keep the conversation going. Or your answer might be, well, I'm very organized, I prepare very well, and I'm very efficient. Whatever your answer is the right answer for this activity. Before we move on, please take a moment to think what your answer is.
Could you repeat the question?
When you are facilitating online at your best, you are like what? I'll put it into the chat as well. Bear with me just a second. So that's the main question. And then you'll need the 2 lazy Jedi questions, and I'll put those in the chat. For this activity, you might want to copy, either write down or copy those 2 questions. What kind of X, and is there anything else about X? And you're going to be going into groups of 2 or 3, and your challenge is to find out about your conversational partner's answer to that question using only those 2 lazy Jedi questions. Would you like a demonstration?
Yes.
Is someone willing to step up and be the demo subject?
Yes.
Araceli?
Yes. Hi.
Excellent. Nice to see you. So for you, when you are facilitating online at your best, that's like what?
I'm able to be present without feeling the need to control anyone. I can be engaged and energized, but relaxed at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And engaged and energized and relaxed and present. What kind of present?
I'm present in a way in which I can perceive things, be aware of what's happening, and let things be.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of energized?
I relate this to this, like reaction to stress, but in a good way. So I feel I'm active. I feel I have energy to give, also energy to attract people.
Mm-hmm. And is there anything else about attract people?
It's very important to me that if I'm facilitating a group, people are connected with each other and with me. So yeah, that's related to this attraction.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's probably all you'll have time for, because you're probably only going to get 2 minutes. I'm just thinking whether to put you into 3s. No, I think I'll make it 2s.
Question.
Go ahead.
Okay, in the breakout room, so basically, technically, only one person will be sharing, and the other one's just asking the questions and clarifying using the Jedi questions.
Yes, so for the first 2 minutes, one person will be the talker and one person will be the questioner. And then after 2 minutes, swap over and do it the other way around. And notice what happens. This is most interesting from the point of view of when you're being asked the questions. I appreciate that asking the questions, if you're new to it, will feel awkward and uncomfortable and you'll think, why are you doing this? Notice what happens when you are asked the questions. Pritom, quick question.
Yes. Since X will relate to what the person says in response to the starter question you asked, so I guess if I were to be the lazy Jedi asking questions, I would first have to ask that person to say, okay, so what was a response to Judy's starter question, right?
Yes.
And
or
then
you can,
take off from
yeah,
there.
absolutely. Okay. Or you can just repeat the starter question and hear what they say.
Okay, so that will be included in the 2 minutes.
That's included in the 2 minutes. I might be a little bit generous.
Yes,
I'm going to
generous.
set the timer for 5 minutes plus a 60-second countdown. But you're still only aiming for 2 minutes each way. Let's see how we go. I'm going to put you into pairs. If you find yourself on your own, please sit tight and I'll try and combine you, any people who find themselves on their own, as soon as I see what's happened. Is that okay? Opening the rooms now. Bob, you able to join the breakout? Hello, Judith. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. I just came from another session, so I'm sorry, but
there are the group are out in breakout rooms at the moment. They'll be back in just a minute. So
yes, I'm willing to wait. Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, the others will be back in the room in about 34 seconds. Hi, Sophie. How are you doing?
Hi. Okay. Good. Thanks.
Yeah, the others will be back in about 20 seconds.
Oh, I came back a little too early.
Well, if you'd finished the task, then no problem.
Well, actually, she was in the middle of a sentence and I clicked by mistake, so I'm sorry. Oh, there you are.
I'm here, yeah.
I'm sorry. What were you about to say, Araceli?
I was curious to ask you if this was the first time or how much experience you had in clean language. That's what I was asking.
Oh, my very first ever. Never heard of it before.
Okay.
So
Okay,
nice.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's hear from a few people. What was your experience in that activity?
It was very flowing. The flow was really beautiful. As somebody who, when I was the one who was asked, then I felt like, yeah, it's really like a hypnotic. The hypnotic feeling was there. That I'm kind of in an alternate state of mind.
Yeah. So hypnotic and flowing. Thank you. And Michelle?
I found it hard at first because there was more that I wanted to ask. Like I wanted to ask what kind of something, da 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 da. But what was interesting is I found that when I just asked that little question, she ended up answering. My partner answered the thing that I really wanted to ask anyway.
It's great when they do that. What other experiences did people have when you were asked the questions?
I was interested by the fact that I think I surprised myself by some of the examples that I gave. So when they were repeated back, all of a sudden I kind of drew up blank and thought, well, what did I mean by that? So in the initial question asking is a very kind of superficial response. But when asked, have your own language repeated back to you, all of a sudden it's like, okay, I use that word. What did I actually mean?
So you're surprised yourself. Interesting.
I felt that you needed the engagement, and I felt I personally had to be engaged, and it would have been very easy to just go, well, I don't know, or not dig into it. I felt a responsibility to the person asking the questions to answer that. And I wonder if people weren't so engaged, whether they would just fold their arms and go, I don't know, or that's all.
Yeah. But it's interesting, isn't it? You feel that responsibility to answer the question. There's something in the curiosity that drives an answer.
It would have felt a bit rude to not.
So it relates back to that first thing we were doing. The quality of your attention can determine the quality of another person's thoughts. Daniel, were you about to say something?
Yeah, no, I mean, I find this quite challenging. And I have to say, this is the first time I've done this exercise properly, I think, and really kind of understood where we're trying to go. And it really did help make me sit and ponder and think more deeply about how I might feel or connect to something, this topic of facilitation. Linda Marshall, I hope she doesn't mind me saying, well, I partner with her and I want to be where she is. she was describing being in a field and everything flowing. But likewise, I had a great connection with Linda on that as well, because in exploring how she feels about facilitation, I could empathize and really connect with that as well. So it was really good. Thank you.
Thank you. And one more person, one more experience to report.
I think for me, it's a little bit different in the fact that those questions are quite personal. Some of the things that you're talking about when they're digging in, you kind of have to let someone in almost into your personal space. It's a little bit uncomfortable to start off with.
Yeah.
But actually, once you get past that, it's actually a bit liberating.
So it's both uncomfortable, and once you get past it, it's liberating. There's something here. So we could spend hours debriefing that activity. That it's such a rich activity, but I want to press on and keep answering the questions that people had at the beginning. But I also want to do a very quick gathering of information from everybody. A lot of you will have seen Mentimeter before. I'm just about to share in the chat a link to Mentimeter. You can either click the link that is in the chat, or if you've got another device and it's easier, go to menti.com and put in the code that I've put in the chat. And my invitation to you is to put 1 or 2 words to just summarize when you are facilitating online at your best. That's like what? Someone's kicked off with River.
Where's the code?
The code is 9969858.
9969858.
Oh, look at the. I'll just make this big and make myself disappear. And you can see this word cloud taking shape. If you pin me or pin me, you'll be able to see everything. So that word flow is coming up. Energizing, part of my being, a flowing stream, a river, guide, confident, energizing, flowing, focused, a conductor, ballet, bright mist, crazy with the tools, physically together in the zone. And the words are still coming in, so let's let it run for just a minute. Okay. So I'll share this word cloud as well afterwards, but I think that's really interesting that to hear how you're all feeling about facilitating online at your best. Let me press on. Oh, actually, before we press on, we've been going for 46 minutes. That means my invitation to you is just a second, just stand up, stretch yourself, move about, give yourself a wiggle. Because as some of you know, the research shows that people's cognitive capacity drops very rapidly after about 45 minutes of sitting still and staring at a Zoom call. It's the real cause of Zoom fatigue, is that people are expected to just keep on going without taking physical breaks. We are human beings. We're not brains in jars. Physical movement, physical breaks are part of what's needed. Thank you for indulging me in doing that, but I hope it feels good to you too. It certainly feels good to me. Okay, onwards. Let me talk then a bit about where else we go with clean language. You've had a little tiny experience of these things called the lazy Jedi questions. They're nicknamed the lazy Jedi questions because myself and Wendy Sullivan, we used to run a huge long training in clean language. People used to do 21 days of intense training with lots of one-on-one coaching practice, lots of working in small groups, practicing with being able to direct their question to exactly the thing, exactly the point that would make the most difference for the person being asked the question. They were understanding metaphor. Metaphor is a really big deal within clean language because metaphor is the native language of the unconscious mind. It's the atom of thought. Human beings think in metaphor before those metaphors are turned into words. And clean language questions were originally designed to be asked about metaphor. We'll try and squeeze in a metaphor activity before we finish. All of that stuff, 21 days of training, years of practice. And at the end of that, you could get a certification and be certified off as a certified clean facilitator. And one of the occasions we were doing the certification event, and we recorded some pieces and transcribed them and counted which of the 12 clean language questions were used most frequently. 80% of the questions asked were the two you've just been practicing with. They are by far the most commonly used clean language questions. So get good at that and you can be a lazy Jedi. Use your lightsaber with just those questions. What did I just say about the metaphor is the what of human language?
You said metaphor is the native language of the unconscious mind. Isn't that great?
And I also said
atom.
And
is the atom
the atom of thought. Those are the two things I usually say about metaphor. It's really, really important stuff within the clean language world. But then what do you do with a precision inquiry technique that's good at metaphor? If it was just that, would that be enough? Well, yes, except you have to apply it. You have to use it for things. And use it and the things that spin off from it. Because it's so precise and so pared down and so clean, it's clean of presuppositions. The questions are clean of the questioner's own opinions, their own voice in the question. And they are designed to reduce the number of metaphors being used in the questions. Because they're so pared down, they lay bare the structure of communication. And that makes it very simple, really very complicated to develop, but simple to describe some straightforward models of how you can improve communication. As I've said, these models have been taught to disaffected teenagers. I didn't say, but I can say they've also been taught to small children in kindergarten classes. They've also been used at board level in large corporations. They've been used within government. They've been used within large global NGOs, within the World Bank, within the World Health Organization. They've been used within the police, a whole bunch of different situations. These questions have been used in different ways. The 6 models that I tend to teach, when I'm teaching people like yourselves who want to learn how to use this stuff with groups, these are the models that I teach. The label I put on it all is collaboration dynamics, because most people don't want to learn clean language. They want to learn something that's going to improve their communication, improve their collaboration skills. So that's why I call it collaboration dynamics. The 6 things we do one about really getting clarity about what you want and getting clarity about what the other person wants, what they think, what they know, what they don't know. Get real clarity and you cut through a whole lot of difficulty within groups. One of my favorite examples of the way this has been used is in software development. A friend and colleague was doing some final checking of the requirements for a big software project, multi-billion euro software project. And it was between the Dutch bank and a Belgian bank. And in a final workshop, he discovered that the Dutch and the Belgian had subtle differences of meaning in a critical word, a critical piece of jargon. There was a misunderstanding under the surface. And by getting clear, he was able to stop things before the building had started, and he was able to prevent what would have been another of those catastrophic software development failures that you read so much about. So clarity matters. The second one is about being your best at work. What do you need to do your best work, to do your best communication, to engage with people at your best? You've just played a little bit with that kind of question when you're facilitating at your best. We do that kind of model. The third one is on feedback. I know a lot of you will say, I need another feedback model, like I need a hole in the head. However, Caitlyn Walker's clean feedback model brings something very new and very unusual to the feedback party. We haven't got time to explore it here, but there's something very special there. The fourth one we do is about overcoming obstacles. A few of you might have come across a chap called Mike Burrows. He's quite well known in the agile world, particularly in the UK. He's operationalized this overcoming obstacles idea with an activity he calls the 15-minute photo, the 15-minute from obstacle to outcome. It's a really pared down, really simple approach to getting people's attention on what they want and less on what they don't want. If you've done much coaching and much group work, you'll know that people find it really easy to say what they don't want, really hard to say what they actually want. So that's where we go in that overcoming obstacles one. Then the number 5 is about conflict and creative conflict. When you're doing creative collaboration, you need to be able to disagree effectively. It's one of the fundamental skills for creative collaborative teams. All the research agrees on that point. So getting people to be able to disagree cleanly and elegantly is an important one. And the final one we love to do is helping people to make decisions that actually stick. Because an awful lot of groups get stuck on just agreeing with, well, you've probably been in the meetings since we've been in the Zoom time, where people will basically agree to anything to get off the call. That's not real decision making. It's just pretend agreement. And if you don't have buy-in to the decision, it's not going to be carried through by the group. So using these clean language questions to make that happen is one of the most important things that groups and teams can learn to do with this stuff.
I had a quick comment there, Judy.
Go ahead, Gary.
Chris Voss, who's written an excellent book, Never Split the Difference, says that yes is useless. He either wants a no or that's right.
Yeah, I love Chris Voss's book. I actually used to base my clean language talk on Chris Voss. And the fact that, no, I'll end up going into too much of a complicated story, but he talks about the nearest thing that the FBI has to a Jedi mind trick. Anyone know what that is?
Cool.
Repeating back the other person's words. So as you've know from the activity you just did, you're using the other person's words in the questions. And what that does is it picks up all the effects of using the other person's words and allows them to work with it. In Chris Voss's work, you use their words as a sort of trick to convince them that you are like them. In clean language, you use their words to help them understand themselves. We could go deeper and deeper into this. One of the things I would really love to know from you guys is, do you think that I should be teaching collaboration dynamics to people like you?
I'm curious, yes.
So I've set up another page on the Mentimeter, and my question to you is this. Would you be interested in joining an open collaboration dynamics course? Just give me a clue. Would you give me a mark out of 5? Whereabouts would you be?
I don't think you've shared the link with us, Judy.
Oh, I'll share it again, just a second. It's the same link as you used before.
Oh, okay.
But I will share it again because not everybody will still have the chat there.
Thank you.
Same chat, same link there. So I don't want to labour this point, but just because you're all here, I was curious to know. So thank you for that. And let me press quickly on to the next thing because we're going to run out of time if we don't. I want to give you one more experience of clean language. This time it's about it's about goal setting. So this is a different starter question, which is also a clean language question. So the clean language part of it, we're ending at 1/4 is the scheduled time, Gwen. If you're able to hang on for another 15 minutes, 16 minutes, that would be great. See if we can shoehorn everything that we need to into these 16 minutes. So similar activity to the previous one, but the idea is to see if you can keep your partner's focus on what they would like to happen and not on what they don't want. So using the clean language questions, our starter question this time is, what would you like to happen as a result of being here today? What would you like to happen as a result of being here today? Now, just a short thought will be enough to start the activity off. I'm not expecting you to have great metaphors or anything, but just 1 or 2 things that you'd like to happen as a result of being here today. And once again, you're going to be in pairs, and your partner's job is to use those Lady Jedi questions to find out more about what you would like. The interesting trick is to keep the person's attention on what they would like, not on what they don't want. Do we need a demonstration, or are you willing to dive in and give it a go?
I'm willing to dive in.
Yeah, dive in.
Let's dive in then. Recreate the rooms, add an extra room. Okay, so once again, you're going to be in pairs. I think we might have some people who have dropped off just now. As before, if you find yourself on your own, sit tight. I might blend you into a 3 if we have got an odd number of participants. But it should be same kind of deal as before. I'll give 5 minutes plus a 60-second countdown. So you've got a total of 6 minutes to do 2 minutes each way.
Okay.
That seemed to work last time, didn't it? Let's try it out. Opening the rooms now. Tessa, are you able to join your breakouts? Timothy, are you able to join your breakouts? I'm going to put somebody into your spot and then someone's not on their own. I can't. Once the rooms are closed, you can't put people back. I
Sorry,
understand.
Stan, I was trying to move it so I could see you.
left
And
me.
Sorry, it was an accident. I was trying to move it so I could see you, the box, and it went.
It's terribly easy, isn't it?
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So the others will be back
No,
any
that's
second.
all right. That's all right.
Did you manage to get at least one way round?
Which
Oh, we did both. We were just.
Oh, excellent.
Oh yeah, we got
Yeah, we did it.
Yeah, we were just gonna have Anne continue with hers, and I was gonna keep on asking questions, but we got our things done, so that's all right.
Thanks, Fern.
Yeah. Thanks, Anne. It was good.
Fantastic. So welcome back, everybody. Let's hear just from a couple of people about what your experience was in that breakout session. What did you learn?
May I?
Go ahead.
I'm Tita. Yeah, I'm Tita from Jakarta. It's late here, but I'm enjoying this.
How late?
It's just past midnight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I took some rest before. Well, actually, I lose attention on the fact that we need to focus on what we want or what other person want instead of what we don't like. Yeah, yeah. Having to exercise the framework. Yeah.
I think it was really interesting for me and my partner as well, Mike, because you know, she would start off as "I would like" in her answer, but then immediately after she says "I would like," she would then go "but" or "instead of," and I was like, "Sorry, Mike, I didn't mean to point you out," but I was like, "Oh," so I thought, "Oh, how am I going to keep this positive again?" You know, and how am I going to answer the question in a way that would put her back on track, without implying that, "Oh, hey, you know, no, you're not supposed to do that," but just keep her on track without her realizing that she had went off track.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? You'd think it would be so simple, but it's not simple.
You did a great job. Thank you.
No problem. Sorry, I should have asked for permission before pointing you out to the crowd.
Thank you. One more view from anyone else who had a different experience?
Yes, this is Deb. I got the best advice, and I don't think my partner, Irene, knew that it was so powerful, but I presented a challenge and she closed with, "Deb, focus the group on their leadership. So I can't tell all of you how grateful I am for being in this place at this time with all of you.
Excellent. She perhaps wasn't doing the activity as described, but she gave you some good advice.
Yes, she was.
One of the things that's incredibly powerful about this process is that if you use a few of these questions, these lazy Jedi questions about what people actually want, before you offer your suggestion, it will be much more gratefully received, because the questions generate this deep feeling of being understood. And when people feel that they are understood, and then you make your offer, your proposal, your advice, your suggestion, they're much more likely to accept it. So this is another way that the clean language questions can be of high value. We use clean language questions when we're wanting to understand a client. So in our sales meeting, we ask the questions so that we really understand what they want from their online event. And then, and only once we really understand it, then we put forward our proposal, our suggestion. Now, we're 4 minutes from our official closing time. There is one more question that I'd like you to answer in the Mentimeter, which is quite simple. What is one thing that you're going to take away from today's session? Once again, we'll use the same Mentimeter code. And once again, I'll put it up behind myself on the screen so you can see it taking shape. What's one thing you're going to take away from today?
Judy, is it possible to ask a question while we're waiting for the contributions here?
It is immediately after we've officially closed. I can stay and answer some questions. Yes, fire in one question while people are putting their answers in. Go ahead, Simon.
My question is, I'm happy to park this if you feel the answer is going to take us over. But my question is, when we ask our question, usually our responders will come back with several responses. And we usually use one of those words and we follow down the route of that response. So if I said, what do you want to get out of today? Well, I want to know what context it's useful in, where it's effective, and how to make it natural. If we choose the natural response, we follow it down that route, and that leads us off. But are we missing out on those initial responses by following down one route? Should we go back? Maybe I'm too process orientated with that question.
No, it's a great question, and it is a deep question. The very quick answer is the closer you can stay focused to the thing the person first said, the better you'll get on with this. If you just keep asking about the last thing they said, you can end up miles away from what they really want.
Okay.
So coming back. Caitlyn draws it in concentric circles. She puts the thing she's asking about in the middle. And she says, you never want to be more than 2 steps away from that focus thing. If you find yourself more than 2 steps away, go back to what they originally said. And the big hot tip, when you get your answer to your initial question, your starter question, write it down. And then you can always refer back to it. You said earlier that you wanted the moon on a stick. And I've asked about stick. Now, let me ask about moon.
That's brilliant. That's really helpful. Thank you.
And it's now 14 minutes past. I'll share all these lovely Mentimeter pages with you all tomorrow, as well as all the links. I can stay online for about 5 or 10 minutes after we officially close. But one of the most important things about online meetings, close on time, particularly those people who've stayed up brilliantly late. Thank you very much indeed for being part of this. It's been an absolute joy. Hope to see you again on other International Facilitation Week events or at some future time. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, Judy. It was marvelous. Really great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you very
That was
much, Judy.
fantastic. Yeah.
See you later in the week.
Judy, may I ask one question?
Do go ahead.
Are you going to offer a kind of a course on clean language or something like that?
I think I am going to offer a course on clean language based on the response we had earlier. Yes, I think I am.
Okay, okay. So we just wait for.
Wait until tomorrow. I'll make a decision overnight and I'll send
no
something.
hurry, no hurry, no hurry.
but maybe not 21 days long.
Not 21 days long. I'm thinking about 2 half days.
Okay.
Now, somebody else asked a question in the chat and it's now gone missing because so many people are saying thank you and it was lovely, which is great.
Judy, can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So when we talk about clean language, how is it different from NVC?
So NVC, nonviolent communication, is a different thing. It has some similarities at its heart, but the work of David Grove is much more about precision questioning. If you take NVC and the clean feedback model and put them side by side, there are subtle distinctions. They are quite subtle. I wrote a blog post about it a few years ago. I'll share that blog post with you. That's the feedback model versus NVC. If you then take all the rest of clean language, as far as I know, NVC doesn't do precision questioning. It doesn't do metaphors. It doesn't do use the person's own words, all of that stuff. And that is quite distinct from NVC.
Okay.
But I will share that piece about the feedback model versus NVC because that's, very specific. Is that okay?
Yeah. Thank you, Judy.
Cheers. Any more questions? Who else has got a question?
Yes. Hi, Judy. This is
Go ahead, Deb.
I am just in love with the software that you had going on behind you. And what is that? Those of us who do a lot of virtual training, oh my gosh, to not go back and forth with the Zoom screen sharing, I loved it. So I wanted to know what that was.
It's called and I'm just about to share the link in the chat. I'll also share in the email tomorrow, I'll share my thing about the 3 different ways you can share your slides behind you in Zoom. because
That would be
this
fantastic. Thank you.
this is this is quite fancy and it requires a bit of ducking and diving, but there are easy ways of doing it as well, such as this. This isn't me using fancy software. This is me using the basic structure of Zoom, but in subtle and interesting ways. Any more questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so
I noticed. Sorry, Barb, you go ahead. I apologize.
all right. So you were talking about nonviolent communication. There's a twist on that called convergent facilitation.
I'm not familiar.
Okay, so I think it's something that really could be compatible, and I'm just interested in seeing if we could make a cross.
Mm.
You know,
Is there a link that you could share about?
You know, there's a book coming out. I've tried to find good learn. If you just look for convergent facilitation, you'll find some courses and course
Convergent facilitation.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting, and I don't know about it at all. So that's a new one for me to look up. Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
And Vivian.
So I don't know, just playing off that Zoom question. I know, of course, you use Zoom quite a bit, but like, for example, when I'm talking to certain customers, like it's kind of like their organization are like, we only use Teams because that is the official thing. We only use Google Meets. That is the official thing. So I'm just wondering if you have any advice or tips, like, because you know, I kind of say to them, given your situation, this is the optimum platform you should use. But they're like, yeah, but you know, we're stuck with this. And if we want to try and use this other platform, then we have to go through like 50 million layers of bureaucracy. Just any tips or thoughts about how you overcome that challenge?
If we're talking specifically about the slides thing, this weird app that I was using today works in both Teams and Google Meet as well as Zoom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's good to know, because I think for me, I'm looking for this software, these solutions that can work across the different platforms, not just because otherwise you're stuck with whatever the platform gives you, basically.
And today's best news about Teams is that I understand that real breakout rooms within Teams is due at the end of November.
Oh, okay. That's good to hear. So now we just have
I'm not here to just do sales for Microsoft, and but I heard that today, and that will make everybody's life a lot easier. The people who are stuck with Teams.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about working with groups online is that it's about it's not just about tool sets. Don't get too hooked up on the technology. It's tool set, it's skill set, and it's mindset. It's about imagining what's possible. I've been reading this week a brand new book by a guy called Sean Blair, who's a Lego Serious Play facilitator. And I know him enough to know that he was very skeptical about the possibility of doing Lego Serious Play online before the lockdown. Since the lockdown, he's worked with his colleagues really intensely to figure out how to do it well. And what you can see from reading their book is just basically how when you change your mindset and think, not this is impossible, this is about Lego bricks, how can I possibly do it online? And think, well, right, we've got to do it. How do we do it well? How do we create a brilliant experience for people? You know, change the mindset, and other things can flow from that. So really, the job of persuading a client that their staff, their groups, their teams deserve the best possible tools is something that falls to us as facilitators. It's our job to push back if people and I know that you can't always win every battle, but let's keep on pushing. Let's push for high quality tools and kit, because it makes such a huge difference to the groups involved.
What was the name of the author of the book about Lego?
Sean Blair, S-E-A-N, Blair. One more question before we close. In which case, I'm going to say that's it for today. It's been absolutely brilliant meeting you all. I'll send out as many links as I can tomorrow. I will be setting up some kind of training in the coming days. Hopefully, by the time I send you the message tomorrow, I'll have a link and you'll be able to sign up directly, and we'll make it all happen.
And you let us know about the training.
Well, I'll let you know as soon as I can.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much.
everybody.
Thank you.
See
Yay.
you again soon.
Superb.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah. Thank you, Jody. Fantastic session.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank
Been
My
lovely
pleasure.
to see you.
All right.
My pleasure.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Bye. Good night.